this poet, I guess is a better way to say this poet. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with some books I bought because of Booktube. So I consider myself a pretty gullible person when it comes to hype. I consider most times I will be interested in a book because of the hype. Now I won't purchase that book unless I'm actually interested in it, but the hype gets to me. And especially books where I hear people talk about them over and over and over again. So I thought I would go through a list of just a handful of books that I have picked up because I've heard about them on Booktube somewhere. Most of these I can pinpoint back to a specific person, so I'll mention that person and make sure I leave everyone I've talked about down below. Some of them I can't quite pinpoint, I just know I've heard multiple people talk about. But these are by no means all of the books that I've picked up or I've heard because of Booktube, but these are just the ones that popped into my head right away. So I will leave all the books I talk about down below, as always, if you want to check them out. I've read some of these I haven't. It's a hodgepodge of stuff, but I thought it might be fun to go through some of the books that, like, it's for sure Booktube's fault. The first one is pretty self-explanatory. I feel like a lot of people did this because it's a pretty indie published book, and that is A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. I picked this one up because I heard both Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction and Becca from Becca in the Books talk about this. I really want to say Ashley's the first person I heard talk about this. So this takes place in a world where in the past, it says 3,000 years ago, humans were not treated so well by other mythical, magical creatures, magical folk, that kind of stuff, until a treaty was created. And then the elves basically came every now and then, I don't actually know how often it is, to come take a young woman to be their human queen. And this follows our main character, Luella, who thinks that she has escaped this. She is really into nature and botany, and specifically using that in healing, and so she's like, I've escaped it, this is great. Then the Elf King comes and picks her personally, and takes her off to live with the elves. And I think she also has some kind of prophecy surrounding her that, like, makes her able to, like, save their race. I have no idea. But elf romance, fae romance. Need I say more? But I've heard that, like, specifically if you're into, like, mythical romances, fae romances, stuff like that, a lot of really good ones come from self-published authors. And so I would love to get more into self-published authors, but this is the first one that I have picked up, and it sounds incredible, and also this cover is stunning, and I think it's got, like, a bunch of different things it's based on. Like, I feel like it's based on Beauty and the Beast, I feel like it's loosely based on Hades and Persephone, like, there's a whole lot of stories and mythology that this is based on. But, yeah. I for sure bought this because I saw it on Booktube. I don't think I would have ever seen it anywhere else if someone on Booktube didn't mention this. The next one I picked up was The Invention of Sophie Carter by Samantha Hastings. This one I picked up because I saw it on Desi from Darling Desi's channel. She is like the Victorian historical aesthetic that, like, I want my videos to be. She's really obsessed with things that are like Anne of Green Gables and stuff like that, but I saw her talk about this for, I think it was a video of books that, like, if you like Jane Austen or if you like things like that, here's a bunch of books that you would enjoy from that time period. So this follows these two twins, Sophie and Mariah Carter, who both really, really want a London season. They both want it for different reasons. One girl, I think it's Sophie, wants it to go see the Great Expedition. The other one wants to go see it because she just wants to go experience all of these incredible paintings that are in London. They both just want to just go and explore and learn more. And they finally get an answer from their cantankerous aunt, but she only has room and time for one. So they just devise a plan that they're both gonna go and pretend to be Sophie Carter and go do whatever that is that they want to do. And so I believe in the process of this, they both fall for different men who both think that they are in love with Sophie Carter, whereas one is in love with Sophie and one of them is in love with Mariah. But this sounds incredible. It's, I don't know, just that idea of like the twins going to like have this experience, but the added bonus on top of it, of it being set in London and set in like that kind of historical time period that I love, and also it seems like it's gonna have some sort of romance in it. It sounds like my thing. So I definitely picked this one up because of her. Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't read this one yet, but I'm so excited. The next one I picked up from someone's recommendation was American Royals by Catherine McGee. I've actually read this one and the sequel to this one, but I saw this on, I believe her name is Justine, but her channel name is I Should Read That. She's very into like fantasy and sci-fi kind of things, but right at the beginning of when I started discovering her was right before this book came out. And she saw this one and said, oh, I like this author's other things. I'm interested in this book. And she described it to me and I said, oh my god, I need that. Now she DNF'd this book. She didn't like this book, but I loved the idea and I personally loved this book. So this takes place, I've said this multiple times, but this takes place in a kind of alternate universe where if George Washington didn't become the first president of the US, he became the first king. And it's the monarch family of the Washingtons and kind of like present day dealing with everything. So it's very like a Gossip Girl drama, but set around a royal family of America, and it follows the 3 kids of that family, and it's really fascinating. It's super dramatic, so like you have to be like okay with that kind of drama. But I personally loved it, and I definitely would not, I'm not sure if I ever would have picked this one up. I might have picked this one up or discovered it otherwise, but she's definitely the first person that I saw this from and said, ooh, I need that. The next one I picked up is another romance. I'm doing all of the like romancy things together. And that is Bringing It Down to the Duke by Evie Dunmore. I actually saw this on Haley from Haley and Bookland's channel. She was really getting into historical, not historical, but like adult romance for the first time. And this is one that she had picked up. And I thought it sounded incredible. And I actually ended up reading this one before she ever touched it, which I think is kind of funny. But this is set in 1879 England, and I've talked about this before because I love this series. It's part of a companion series. But for those of you who are new and have no idea what this book is about, it's set around the suffragette movement at Oxford. It follows our main character, Annabelle, who has been given a scholarship to go to Oxford as one of the very first women, but the scholarship is from the Oxford suffragette chapter, and so she has to kind of come to their meetings and do some stuff for them, specifically getting men to get on board with the suffragette movement. And so she approaches a duke who is very much not part or even thinking about being part of the suffragette movement, and it's their love story. And it's glorious, it's super steamy, I love it, but it's definitely a book that I'm not sure I've ever seen anywhere on Booktube besides Haley's channel. And I think it's super underhyped and should definitely be read more because it's so, so good. And, ooh, I love this. So if you like historical fiction goodness, historical fiction romance goodness, this is your book. The next 2 are some mangas that I'm going to do them together because they are by, or I found them through the same person. And that is Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo and Witch Hat Atelier by Komome Sharahama. I'm so bad with these names. I'm really bad with manga names. I'm sorry. But these are both series, like first volumes in a series that like sound incredibly interesting to me. And I wanted to give them a shot, but I saw both of these on Liv from Liv's Libraries channel. She's really into mangas, and I'm really trying to get into mangas. I think I'm going to love them if I can find the right ones for me. So I thought I'd give these a shot. I just talked about these actually in my last video, so I won't talk about them too much, but I hauled these in March. But Spy Family is about a guy who's a spy, and he has to create this fake family. So he gets a wife and he gets a daughter. And I think they end up actually really caring about each other. And then we have this one, which follows a girl named Coco, who has always lives in this world, and she always thought that you have to be born with magic, but actually she thinks that you can actually learn magic. And so she tries to learn magic, and it does not go so well. But these are both first volumes in mangas that I really want to try, and Liv loves them. So I'm gonna give it a shot. The next one is one that I also saw on Haley, from Haley and Bookland's channel, and that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Now this is all over Booktube. This is all over Bookstagram. A lot of people were talking about this one when it came out at the end of last year, but I first saw it on Haley's channel, so she's the one who gets the credit for me. But this is kind of like if you enjoyed the movie Knives Out, you will enjoy this, because it follows our main character Avery, who is just trying to live her life, and then somehow she gets sucked up into this inheritance game because this guy who died and has a ton of money that all of his relatives are hoping will go to them ends up going to her instead. And I'm not quite sure if it's actually a game she has to play to get the inheritance, or if it's just she has to survive this family because they're all after her because they can't believe this nobody is going to inherit all this money. But I really enjoyed the movie Knives Out, and I think that this is one that I'm going to really, really enjoy. It's super mysterious, which I'm so down with. But yeah, I saw it first on her channel, so she gets credit from me. The next one is actually Serpent and Dove by Shelley Mahurin. Now this is a couple of years old, but Emma from Emma Books first read this arc I think 6 months or something ridiculous before this book came out, and her description of it sounded fabulous. It sounded fascinating. It was a hate to love arranged marriage between a witch and a witch hunter, and I was like, there's no way that's gonna end well. I must know. So I picked this one up because of her. I think it's super popular now, so a lot of people have heard of this series, but I hadn't heard of it, and she was one of the first people I heard talk about this. The next one I want to talk about today is Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors by Solani Dev. Do I know what this is about? No. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling set in a traditional Indian family, and it has to do with baking. That's all I know. But I do know that I saw this on Lisa from Remarkably Lisa's channel. She's an amazing romance booktuber, and she talked about this one, and now there's other books. I think there's a Sense and Sensibility retelling. I'm pretty sure there's a Persuasion retelling that's coming out. This sounds incredible, so I definitely picked this one up purely based on the fact that it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I should probably investigate more about what this is about, but I'm not going to. Pride and Prejudice retelling. That's all I need to know. Would I have discovered this? Maybe eventually. Would I have picked it up? Who knows? But I trust Lisa, so we did. The next one is A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. Need I say who I should attribute this to? Because we should all know it's Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin. I have so many middle grade books because of him. I could do a video of things that Gavin has recommended alone. So this series follows 3 sisters who all have a magical object, and they have a family curse on their family that basically says that they can't leave the area in which they are, or they're going to die within 24 hours or something. And so it's the 3 of them who are on a mission to break this curse. But I definitely picked this one up because Gavin, and then Ashley from A Follow Through Fiction read it and loved it, and then I think Cody from Cody's Book Corner read it and loved it. A lot of people have read this because of Gavin's recommendation, and I would be one of those. So, yeah. This should just represent my entire middle grade collection. They're all because of Gavin. The next one is actually an entire graphic novel series, but I'm holding up one because they're heavy, and that is the Saga series by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I own all 9 that are out and have read all 9 that are out, and I'm very bitter about the ending of the 9th one because cliffhanger much. But I read this because of G from Book Roast. She's very much into graphic novels. I think that's where I really started to discover graphic novels. This is the first graphic novel that I've ever read and ever owned, and it's because of her. And she's very much into sci-fi stuff, and so I really wanted to get more into sci-fi, so I read this first one, and it was incredible, and I became invested in this entire series. But this is a very, very adult sci-fi Romeo and Juliet retelling, where we have these main 2 characters who are from warring planets. One I think is a planet, and one I think is a moon that surrounds that planet, but the 2 kind of worlds are warring against each other. And at the beginning of this book, they have a kid, and it's all from the kid's perspective of the 2 of them just kind of trying to live their life, but they're running from the law, basically. But I definitely picked this first one up because of her, and then fell in love, and read the rest of them. Another one that I picked up because of Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction is this collection of short stories. So it's called The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories by Susanna Clark. This is the author who wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is a very large book that I am not at all interested in. But this has been kind of explained to me of like, if you like fairy tales and you like Jane Austen, this is a great mix of the two. So that's all I need to know. So I picked up a secondhand copy that has seen better days, but it's very, I think, lyrical writing. It's very kind of older English, kind of like Jane Austen. Classic English maybe is a better word to use. But she's the only person I've ever seen talk about this. But I couldn't say no because Jane Austen and fairy tales sounds perfect. The next one is a poetry collection, and that is Goddess of the Hunt poems by Shelby Eileen. I definitely picked this one up because of Cece from Problems of a Book Nerd's channel. This poet came out with something before this. This is self-published, by the way, and that one's all about body image, and this one is all about, I think, is about using like Greek goddesses to talk about being ace, maybe? Or aromantic or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but it sounds incredible. Anything with Greek mythology sounds good to me. And the minute she mentioned this book, I was like, ooh, I need that one. So I picked it up. The next series, I'm gonna do these 3 books together. I've read the first one, but not anything else in the series. And that is this series, the Themis Files series, Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, and Only Human. We can blame G from Book Roast for this one again. She loves this series, and I've read the first one, and I completely understand why. So, I purchased all of these. Well, I purchased the first one because of her, and then I got the other 2 because I love this series. But yeah, my sci-fi recommendations, I feel like I can contribute them all, almost all of them, to G from Book Roast because she recommends some great sci-fis. The next 2 books are part of the same series, so I'm going to do them together, and that is volume 1 and 2 of My Brother's Husband by Jingoro Tagame. Now, I can't think of one person I specifically contribute this to because I don't remember who I first saw this from, but I've seen it on a few different channels, and I know for a fact I saw this first on Booktube. So I don't really have a name to contribute these to, but this is a series that I bought because I want to invest in more mangas. I want to get into more mangas, and this seemed like something that was really interesting because it's about a man and his brother's husband, and this man lives in Tokyo, and he lives in a community that's not as accepting of gay people, and so his brother's husband comes to visit because the brother has died, and he's trying to get an idea of the culture better, and they kind of live together for a little bit. He's coming to visit, so he stays at this brother's house, and it's just the 2 of them, and kind of coming to terms with grief, coming to terms with being gay, that kind of stuff, or having a brother who was gay, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely picked these up because I thought this would be a good step, because there's only 2 volumes, it's not a lot to invest in, so I thought this was a good step into the manga era, and I was correct. And the very last book that I want to talk about is one that I picked up completely on a whim, and it's for sure because of Booktube, and that is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This one I saw on a few people's channels, but I think it was Liv from Liv's Library that I saw it on first. I know for a fact I saw it on her channel. I think I also saw it on Zoe from Zoe Delaney's channel, I think, and I've seen it a few other places because I believe this was a Book of the Month book a couple of months ago, but it's a mystery thriller where all these people come together for a wedding on a random Irish island, and then like a storm keeps them there, and then by the end of the ceremony or the reception someone's dead. I have no idea, but there's no way I would have picked this one up on my own, but it sounded interesting because of what they said, so yeah, I did the thing. So yeah, that's a look at just a handful of books on my shelves that I've picked up because of Booktube. Booktube made me purchase these because I'm not sure if I would have. Maybe a couple of these I would have found in other places, but most of these I'm not sure I would have found if I hadn't have heard about them on Booktube, especially some of the kind of like self-published ones. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I would love to know your thoughts down below, or if there's a book that you've definitely purchased because someone on Booktube, someone on Bookstagram, someone somewhere recommended it to you and you said, dadgummit, I need that. Please tell me I'm not alone. But if you did like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to go check all of those out. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.